Hello, and welcome to another episode of Tech Time Today. I am your host, Jeff Welpley, and as you may notice, my setting is a little bit different today. I am live on site at Google Cloud Next. It's my first time at Google Cloud Next. I've gone to a lot of other Google conferences, mostly Google I/O, a lot of Angular conferences, but this one is definitely a lot different than all those other conferences I've been to. Among other things, it is massive. There are 30,000 people here plus, and tons of vendors, way more talks than I could possibly go to in a lifetime, and a lot of other amazing things. So I have a lot to talk about. I want to get right into it. First up, I want to talk about Google's strategic focus on Google Cloud. It's something that I didn't really realize enough, I guess, and probably it's changed over time, to be honest. But it's the type of thing where, Google Cloud is not the biggest revenue maker for Google. That's obviously still ads, still by a lot. It's something like ads is like 300 billion in revenue last year. Google Cloud is something 60 billion or so. But Google Cloud is increasing the revenue year over year, like by 50%, just like massive growth. Whereas ads are starting to peter out a little bit, still growth, but not nearly as much. And so Google themselves are obviously putting a lot of effort into Google Cloud because there's such a need for compute. There's a hunger because of AI, obviously, and other things. So they want to be the premier cloud platform. That's something that they've probably been wanted to do for a while, but I think AI is sort of like exacerbated there or put it on steroids. One of the interesting things is that I didn't realize how putting such an emphasis on the platform makes it so that a lot of the individual products, it's not as big of a deal to have competitors. So things like Nvidia, let's say. I thought going into this conference that Google was like a direct competitor to Nvidia and they would be battling each other in like every level or whatever. But because Google just cares about primarily, the platform, Nvidia is just another provider. So yes, Google has TPUs, Nvidia has GPUs, but they can coexist on the platform. And when the emphasis is on Google Cloud, then it's all good. Same thing with Anthropic. I thought going into this that Google would be like bitter enemies with Anthropic because they obviously have two of the biggest frontier models with Gemini and Claude. Obviously there's OpenAI as well, separate thing. But Google has partnered with Anthropic. Anthropic's a huge partner of Google and Google Cloud because they both run on the same cloud. Anthropic needs TPUs. They have like a desire to get a lot of GPU, TPUs to train their models, inference, etc. So it actually makes a lot of sense. And the last interesting thing on this topic before moving on to the next one is that you can see how much Google cares about it in how much they are investing into the platform. So I mentioned that they made something like 50 billion in revenue last year. This year, they are investing 175 billion into Google Cloud. That's more than 3 times their revenue. And they have a lot of plans. They have a lot of belief in its growth. And so you could see that with a lot of the features that are already coming out and a lot of the expanded capacity and that type of thing, just to pick one thing out, because there's a lot of different stuff they announced at the keynote, but just to announce one thing that I thought was like really cool was that they added this feature where all of their services have an MCP so that when you have your coding agent that is deploying to Google Cloud, your agent can basically talk to Google Cloud and both understand how to do things, have visibility into your cloud services and your deployed workloads and everything like that, and then very easily solve issues. So I definitely am much more of a believer after these couple of days going through listening to talks, listening to some of the Googlers, that Google Cloud is already much improved from even last year and the year before, and it's only going to go up and up and better and better. The next thing is the Agentic Era. This is something that during the keynote they brought up, that they believe that we are entering the Agentic Era, which means that companies are going to start to use agents in a much more real way, not just like prototyping, like, oh, this would be a nice thing to do, but they'll actually have like real use cases, implementing it into their workflows, et cetera. And this is interesting because I've always viewed, I mean, even before I started, hearing about some of this new stuff they have in GCP, I've always kind of looked at it as kind of like a couple different levels of like agent collaboration that is available there. So like level one is just a single agent, like no collaboration. So you're using your coding agent to just do one thing, and it interacts with the model and does its thing. But then level two is if you're using something like Gemini CLI or Claude Code to have like a team of agents where there's the initial agent that is in the orchestrator and the creator that creates like some sub agents, and it's all kind of self-contained and managed kind of like within a pretty self-contained bubble. Then level three is where you have autonomous agents, so agents that are running independently and kind of collaborate, talk to each other as if they don't have a direct connection, but they know how to communicate, they know how to work together to achieve objectives in a sort of autonomous, distributed way. And the level three, in my mind, is where it's all part of the same organization. So you have control over it. You can like make sure that they're all the same types of agents, and that you could make sure that they all use the same protocol to talk with each other. They don't have to like figure that out on the fly. And that's something that at that level three, the way I'm defining it, where Google Cloud has put a lot of emphasis this past year into their offering, where they're calling this new agent platform Gemini Enterprise. And part of their agent platform is having all of those like little pieces to make it very easy to have all of your autonomous agents able to work together, have kind of visibility, be able to like work out when there's issues, that type of thing. So at that level three, Google Cloud now has like a really good offering. The last or the highest level, in my mind, level four, not something they talked about in the conference, but this is something that I actually am heavily involved with a W3C community group called the Agentic Protocol Group. And we are talking about trying to come up with protocols for autonomous agents among distributed companies. Like, so they aren't one organization, and you can't necessarily trust the other agents, which is a big part of it. And so there's a whole bunch of very difficult problems to overcome with that. It's something where it's really greenfield. It's very raw. There's not really much out there to be able to accomplish this now, because it sort of requires a common agreement among everybody, all the different organizations, of how to do things. So in this W3C group, there are representatives from most of the big companies, so Google, Microsoft, Apple. So in theory, when this group that I'm a part of comes up with an agreement and a recommendation, then that level four will start to be solved in some way. And I'm sure that Google will sort of backfill, at the level three level, like within their like world, to be able to do the same thing. And for that, the W3C group, the name of the protocol that they've kind of put out there, at least for now, it may change, is the Agentic Network Protocol, so ANP. So we'll see where it goes, but that's like a TBD thing for the future. One of the things that I had like a good discussion with one of the DevRels at Google on is DevTools, is my experience in, how I use AI-related dev tools today, including both, Google products and non-Google products, and, how I think that the Google-related projects could improve in the future. And so one thing I wanted to bring up, this idea of adversarial agentic-driven development. It's something that I do now at work, where I use, let's say, Claude Code to create a change, initial PR with a set of code changes, and then I'll use other agents and other models to cross-check it and provide feedback. So not just like a code review tool, CodeRabbit, or GitHub Copilot, but also, Gemini CLI as well to both, look over the PR and to think of other potential changes or improvements. And by doing this, usually there's like a back and forth because, the initial code change goes in and then the other models and the other agents provide, feedback, and then the original agent will make some changes, and then they'll kind of go back and forth, a couple different times. But the end result is that a much higher quality code change. And when it's something where, because of these agentic tools, you're making changes at a much faster rate, then it's very hard to manually review every single line of code. And using this approach of this adversarial agent-driven development, it allows you to kind of narrow things down. So by the end of it, there's like a much smaller surface area that I have to review as a human. And it ends up being much easier to understand, and ultimately the thing that goes in, I've had much fewer problems with. But the idea is that, well, why can't you just set up a more efficient system of having, let's say, Gemini CLI, because we were talking about the Google products, of sort of doing that beneath the scenes? It's sort of like you can already set the effort level for the CLI-based tools of, whether they do, high effort or low effort, and which models they use and that type of thing. So this would be like just another setting, which obviously it would take more time, be more costly, use more tokens, yes. But again, if your goal is having the kind of highest quality output at the end, and it's like a complex task, it may make sense. All right, that's it for today. I hope that you enjoyed my couple little thoughts here on Google Cloud Next. And I really appreciate Google for all the support that they give the GDs and me personally, getting us out here, giving us a lot of great feedback ourselves, and listening to us about our thoughts on the different products and ways they can improve or whatever. So it's just been a great experience all the way around, and I really appreciate it. So thank you for listening, and I'll see you again next time on Tech Time Today.